Today on Trial Watch, in this corner, the champion, Sylvester Stallone. The challenger, former boxer Joey Barnum. Each says the other is ripping him off.
And remember when you said to watch out for scams and deceptions? You're the one that should have watched out.
We'll tell you how Marla Hanson went from cover girl to recover girl.
I think after the trial process, I'd said it and, talked about it so much that my mind, in order to protect itself, blocked it out.
All this and more today on Trial Watch. Real people, real trials.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Weller.
And I'm Lisa Specht. Welcome to Trial Watch.
It could be Rocky's biggest fight ever. Sylvester Stallone's reputation and $600 million are at stake. The challenger is Joey Barnum, a one-time boxer and manager whose explosive true story already has been seen on television. But Barnum claims Stallone sucker punched him and stole his life for Rocky V.
He says he could have been a contender. In the movie business, that is. Joey Barnum is his name, and boxing used to be his game. He was born Joseph Rosselli. Originally, he studied to be a priest, but Joey liked to fight. He decided to change his name and enter the boxing ring as Joey Barnum.
I was a fighter for many years, and I decided to quit fighting after reaching the age of maybe 31, 32. That's, it's kind of old for a fighter, so I decided to hang up the gloves, go down to Mexico, find me a couple of Mexican boys down there that were pretty good prospects, bring them back and have a stable of fighters and make a living. So one of them was Mario Trigo.
You want me to be your manager?
Oh, see? Yes, please.
All right, Angel, you got yourself a manager. George, get him in the shower.
As the TV show The Killer Instinct dramatized, Joey became Mario Trigo's manager.
I brought him up here and trained him, brought him right to the top. He was one of the top contenders. And pretty soon we weren't getting along. I don't know why, but he started not getting up for road work. So one day a guy called me and said, Joey, your fighter's down at the bar. He's getting drunk.
Joey went to the bar and got into an argument with Mario that ended their relationship.
I should have left you back in the dirt where I found you.
I was hurt. I wanted to figure out how can I get even with this little ungrateful punk. So then it clicked on me. I made him, I'll destroy him. I went, because I'd only been away from boxing about 2 years, okay? So I went back in, trained myself. I handed in my manager's license.
How do you feel, Johnny?
And renewed my fighter's license.
We've been checking it, Johnny. It's the first time in history a manager ever turned around and fought his own boy.
I'm not a manager anymore.
Yeah, but this is a great angle.
Joey says it might have been a great angle, but it wasn't a great fight. He beat Mario Trigo pretty badly.
When I'm talking about the story, I feel like crying. I actually ruined the kid, That's why I called my original story, I called it The Devil in My Corner. In other words, it wasn't me, it was the devil.
After the Trigo fight, Joey hung up the gloves for good and moved to Hollywood, where he met a few movie stars, including Rory Calhoun. Calhoun liked the story, and in 1959, helped get it made into a TV drama with the title The Killer Instinct for Desilu Playhouse.
I thought you were going to kill me, killer. Oh, come on, kill me!
Not long after The Killer Instinct was made, Joey settled into a new line of work that seemed perfect for an ex-boxer. He opened up a bail bond company, which he's run ever since. But Barnum never gave up the idea of making a motion picture about his life, until a couple of years ago, when he says he found out it was being made without his permission.
You knocked him down. Why don't you try knocking me down now?
No, in the ring!
Joey says he always knew his life story belonged on the big screen with big stars. But when it happened, he claims it was a big ripoff. Barnum versus Stallone when Trial Watch continues. Joey Barnum was the only boxer in history to come out of retirement and challenge a fighter he once managed. Joey always dreamed his story would be on the big screen, and it almost came true. But Joey charges Sylvester Stallone knocked him out cold.
Rocky V is the latest, perhaps last, of the Rocky series. Joey says he met and passed on his story ideas to members of Sylvester Stallone's family before the movie ever went into production.
I met Jacqueline Stallone at Mateo's restaurant, and I met her again. So I made sure I had a script of that film that was done by Rory Calhoun. I thought it would make a perfect Rocky V. So I took the script up and I gave it to her, and she said, Joey, she says, why don't you, she says, I like the idea the way you told me it was.
Joey says Sylvester's mother, Jackie, took the script and later said she'd given it to her son, Frank Stallone. Joey says he also gave Frank a copy of the script.
Frank said he'd get back to me. Well, they never got back to me.
When he heard Rocky V was in production and heard some of the story, Joey filed suit against Stallone family members and others, seeking a total of $600 million in damages, plus 100% of the movie's gross receipts. Frank and Jackie Stallone declined several requests for an interview, but Mrs. Stallone did tell Trial Watch that she did receive Joey's script, but she says she later threw it away. She says she told Joey she'd passed it on so he wouldn't feel bad.
Time! That's it! Time! I said it's enough. What's the matter with you?
Are the two stories alike? Well, there are some similarities. Rocky does take on a protege with whom he does later get into an argument which results in a fight.
Tommy Gunn only fights in the ring. Get out here.
My ring's outside.
But Rocky's fight takes place in the street, not the ring. And there are several other major differences, not the least of which is the sizable role for Rocky's son, played by Stallone's real-life son, Sage.
And remember when you said to watch out for scams and deceptions? You're the one that should have watched out.
Could Joey's suit be no more than a scam itself, as some Stallone family members charge? Sylvester Stallone has issued only a terse statement calling the suit frivolous.
I give various advice to celebrities who are involved in these type of nuisance suits. First, you explain to them this is unfortunately a price of doing business as a celebrity. By virtue of your being a celebrity, you will come in contact with certain individuals who will then seek to obtain monies from you. And you just have to recognize that this is a possible price of doing business.
Another factor possibly pointing to a scam is Joey's association with promoter Joe Side, a convicted felon who makes no bones about his colorful past.
As I say, I'm not any shining angel. I've been involved in some cons, heavy duty, big business, concerts in the entertainment field, rock concerts, big ones. I got Joey. How much I owe you?
Close to 100,000.
I got him good. He's got to stay with me as a partner. I owe him.
I can't afford to let him go.
It's a fact. But the Stallone's charges that it's a con. It's ridiculous.
Side claims to have proof that in the original Rocky V script, the fight with Rocky's protege was supposed to happen in the ring, as it did in The Killer Instinct, but was changed to the street when Joey filed suit. But Rocky V's director of photography has told Trial Watch that no such changes were made.
So, Lisa, what does Joey have to do in court to prove his case?
He actually has to do two things, Rob. First, he has to show the story was copyrighted, and the TV movie certainly was copyrighted. Second, Joey has to prove the material in the TV version was copied in Rocky V.
So how does he do that?
Again, two things he has to do. He has to prove that there are substantial similarities between Joey's story and the Rocky movie, and second, that the people who made Rocky V had access to the material.
And on the first issue, both scripts have fighters battling former proteges, and on the second issue, Stallone's own mother admits Joey gave her the script.
Well, next on Trial Watch, a jilted suitor had her cut up with a razor. We'll tell you how she fought back. Texas beauty Marla Hansen moved to New York intent on becoming a model. She dreamed of appearing on magazine covers, but when it actually happened, it was a nightmare.
I'm from Missouri, Independence.
Figures.
I always wanted to get to New York. I always knew I'd belong here.
Why modeling?
make-believe, I guess.
Marla Hansen was on the fast track. Her face was the ticket. Her destination, the covers of the world's premier fashion magazines. But Marla's career was derailed one warm summer New York night. Outside this restaurant, two men jumped her and viciously slashed her face with a razor blade.
One guy moved around behind me and held me, and the other guy stood in front of me, and I just remember these arms flailing all around in front of my face. And I couldn't figure out what they were doing.
After 3 hours of emergency surgery and 150 stitches, doctors were able to close Marla's wounds. Her spirit and courage never faltered. Her hopes of resuming her modeling career never dimmed.
You know, in a few months, maybe I can do some modeling. Not a lot of close-up, but I'm going to concentrate on my TV career.
The next day, 3 men were arrested for the attack: Steve Norman, Darren Bowman, and Stephen Roth. Roth, a makeup artist who was infatuated with Hansen, was also her landlord. Hansen had spurned Roth's romantic advances and decided to move out of the apartment. She demanded her security deposit back, and he agreed, but only if she would meet him for a drink. He lured her outside the saloon, and as Bowman and Norman approached, Roth stepped back and watched. He later claimed he panicked and fled into the night.
The fact that he was shocked by what happened and did nothing and ultimately ran away really did not surprise me or shock me, because it's unfortunately a circumstance that occurs every day in New York City.
The testimony told another story. The jury heard that Roth had hired the 2 other men to ambush Hansen in exchange for a free apartment. Roth denied it.
I mean, it's absurd to think that Stephen Roth didn't have anything to do with this. I knew the minute I saw those guys. And, I mean, there's a lot of evidence pointing to him. People saw, you know, he bought razor blades, and they saw him buying razor blades. He brought those guys to the apartment the day before to look at me in the apartment.
Roth's comments to the police after his arrest did not sit well with the jury.
One of the rather sarcastic comments of Stephen Roth at the precinct, when he was told that this woman that he supposedly was friendly with and just a bystander when she was attacked, when he was told that she had required over 150 stitches, his quote to the police officer was that, well, so what, I'm out $850.
The case was covered intensely by the media. Roth's attorneys claim the sensationalism surrounding the trial and the intense sympathy for the victim affected Roth's chance for a light sentence.
The publicity certainly hurt Stephen Roth's defense. The amount, if the case had been a non-publicity case, because the nature of the injuries were similar but not the same, or had not been to a model, the result might have been different, in my opinion.
The courtroom battle got extremely nasty. Bowman's attorney, Alton Maddox, tried to mount a smear campaign against Hansen during the trial. He charged that she was a racist and that she used her beauty to manipulate men. Maddox then went on to accuse her of participating in a conspiracy with the prosecution to frame his client.
The words he used were meant to, excuse the expression, but to cut. I mean, they were meant to really hurt me and to damage me. And I thought that was just as cruel as being attacked on the street.
The tactic didn't work. Roth and his 2 accomplices were sentenced to 5 to 15 years, the maximum allowed under the law. As for Marla, time and reconstructive surgery have helped heal her wounds. The emotional scars will take a lot longer.
I think that I have to live the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. I think this guy's mean. I think he's dangerous. He's shown no remorse at all for what he's done. And I don't know. I don't know if I want to stay in New York when he gets out. You know, is that any way to live, to look over your shoulder constantly and wonder if someone's going to come after you again?
Despite her fears, Hansen is trying to make a new life for herself. She's testified before Congress for new legislation to help victims of violent crimes. She's also given up modeling and is attending film school. And the support she's received, sometimes from complete strangers, has helped her keep her life on track.
It's really touching. I think that was one of the things that helped pull me through. I mean, as much bad as there was, you know, being cut in the press and everything that happened, for every bad thing there was a good thing, and there was a nice person that helped me and that treated me with some degree of humanity.
Not satisfied with Roth's prison term, Marla sued him for damages, and she was awarded a record $78 million.
And Lisa, do you think she'll ever see any of that money?
Well, probably not the whole $78 million, but actually she'll be able to garnish his wages for the rest of his life. And more importantly, that judgment should encourage other victims to hit back at their attackers, too.
Well, next on Trial Watch, this minister was convicted of stealing $18 million. Now some of his flock say he's stealing again. Evangelist Jim Bakker became famous for his sexual escapades with Jessica Hahn, but what sent him to prison for 40 years was stealing money from his PTL club members. Reverend Charles Blair is different. He was convicted of bilking investors of $18 million, but he was only given probation and fined $12,500. He got a second chance, but he wouldn't leave well enough alone.
Thank you, you're so kind. Nice to have you here.
Jim Bakker, Jerry Falwell, and Pat Robertson have all donated large sums of cash to this man.
Do you know that God wants you, yes, you, to be debt-free?
Reverend Charles E. Blair, who frequently appeared on the PTL network, is an ordained minister at the Calvary Temple in Denver, Colorado. Reverend Blair begged his pulpit fraternity to help bail him out of a financial catastrophe that has now snowballed into a messy lawsuit.
Was it your intention to steal any money?
No, sir. Blair's authorized biography is called The Man Who Could Do No Wrong. Now he claims he's been wrongfully accused of bilking a trust out of millions of dollars. The trust was set up to pay back his elderly parishioners who invested their life savings in Blair's now defunct nursing home. Back in 1965, Blair had a dream. He wanted to build Life Center, a Christian nursing home. To pay for the facility, Blair and Calvary Temple sold church bonds to corporations and individual investors. Hundreds of Blair's elderly flock bought a piece of the dream. Lillian McAfee invested $11,000 for her ailing husband.
I bought into it not for interest, but for his care.
But Lillian's husband never made it to Life Center. In 1974, it went bankrupt. 2 years later, Reverend Blair was convicted on 17 counts of securities fraud. He never told investors how much financial trouble the company was having. His sentence, 5 years probation, but thousands of investors lost over $18 million.
Some people were approached to put their houses in it, so they've lost everything.
Lillian didn't lose everything, but she did lose her husband. The last few months of his life were financially grueling for her.
So I took care of him. It was very, very difficult. I had to pay about $8. I did pay $8.15 an hour, and it cost me about $30 every time that I went out because I couldn't leave him alone. And it was very hurtful to think that if that had been going, I could have put him in it.
Looking back, somebody made a mistake, and whatever that was, it happened. And I decided that after the mistake, instead of leaving, was to stay here and try to overcome and see that the people were paid back.
So in 1986, a plan called the Second Mile was created. All the Life Center investors who wanted out would get their money back.
I was not obligated to pay it back. It was not a part of any sentencing on my part. It was a volunteer effort.
Reverend Blair and his Second Mile Committee received contributions from Jim Bakker, Pat Robertson, and Jerry Falwell, among others. But this volunteer effort got Blair tangled up in yet another lawsuit. 200 elderly investors are now accusing him of stealing from the Second Mile Trust. They say they've never seen any of their money. An accounting record showed approximately $600,000 from the trust was paid back to major investors, and $200,000 of that to Calvary Temple itself. Lillian McAfee got nothing.
I'm so upset about it that I've lost about 15 pounds, and my blood pressure went up. And, of course, I don't have money for trips and that kind of thing, and I eat vegetables and I don't eat a lot of expensive meats and that kind of thing. I think he's betrayed Christianity, and that's the hurtful thing.
Remember all week to smile, look up, and trust.
Lisa, what can the investors hope to get back?
Well, the court could order the Reverend to give them back the money they invested. The investors are also asking for punitive damages, and they can be up to 3 times the amount that was lost.
All right, now Patty Sullivan wanted damages when she divorced her husband, Houston oil millionaire Jerry Childs. Their unique battle makes up today's snap judgment.
It is a unique battle. When this couple married, Jerry had Patty sign not 1, but 2 prenuptial agreements. Maybe he knew what was coming. Well, when the marriage ended, less than 2 years later, Patty demanded more money than the agreements called for. She claimed she suffered severe emotional distress because of her marriage to Jerry. And her complaints included being frightened by his drunkenness and being scared of catching AIDS due to his sexual contacts with prostitutes. She even accused Jerry of once hitting her on the head with a pillow. Now, Patty wanted to be paid for all of her suffering, but no jury in a divorce case had ever awarded damages for infliction of non-physical injuries. Do you think they did this time? The answer right after this.
Did the jury award damages to Patty, even though she didn't suffer any physical injury?
Yes, Rob, it actually did. Even though they were only married for 22 months, Patty got $500,000 for emotional distress. And that's in addition to the $1.4 million she got under the divorce agreement. For the first time in history, a spouse was given money for the aggravation of being married. And this precedent has already been cited in other divorces. Well, that's it for today.
And thank you for joining us. Join us again tomorrow for Trial Watch. Real people, real trials.